Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Chara zor-el here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 9 of What If Izuku Was a Stand User. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So, we begin. An hour passed since the pro-heroes at UA thwarted the League of Villains' attempted assassination of All Might. The police and other pro-heroes scattered the area and arrested every villain in the building, all except for Shigaraki, Kurogiri, and the Nobu who escaped before the cavalry arrived. Detective Tsukauchi finished taking roll call on the students as he radioed to command that everyone was accounted for. But everyone was unusually quiet. This happened because they heard the unfortunate news of what happened to Bakugo. "Excuse me, Detective?" Uraraka said. "Have you heard from Bakugo and the others? Are they okay?" The detective sighed for a second before telling the students about Asui and Midoriya first. "I heard from Recovery Girl a few minutes ago that Midoriya and Asui are both shaken, but they're okay. Midoriya suffered a bit of internal bleeding, but should recover. As for Asui, her exposure to that villain's disintegration quirk thankfully wasn't too serious. Recovery Girl unfortunately couldn't fix her up in one sitting, but give it a few days and another round of her healing power and she'll be okay. However, she'll have some discoloration on her face for a while and is a bit shy about that. So keep that in mind the next time you all see her, okay?" The detective called up the chief physician at the hospital for an update on the more serious cases. The doctor said that the bones in Aizawa's left arm are splintered and that he has facial fracturing. He also lost his right arm from the battle, and there's nothing that can be done to reattach it. His orbital floor was also destroyed, and because of this, there's no telling how his eyesight will be when he's healed up. 13 had some pretty bad lacerations to her back, but she should make a full recovery. As for Bakugo, the chief physician said 4 of his ribs were badly fractured and pierced his right lung in 4 places. He also had a diaphragmatic rupture and a moderately lacerated liver and is in the ICU being worked on because of this. A wave of concern washed over the students as everyone was shocked to hear how bad his injuries were. Tsukauchi assured the concerned students that he was in the best place he could be in right now and that they were doing everything they could. He then asked the students to head back to their class as he ended his call. Later that evening, Midoriya and Asui were both released from Recovery Girl's office as they walked back to their homeroom, collected their things, and left school for the day, all without saying a word. Izuku spotted Uraraka, Ida, and a few other students outside the school when Ida asked the two how they were feeling. Midoriya responded that he and Asui were still feeling shell-shocked from today's events. "I had a feeling that would be the case. As the class rep, it's my duty to ensure the well-being of my fellow students, so I have an idea for how we can lift all our spirits. I made reservations for a karaoke bar not far from here. All expenses are on me. A night full of entertainment should be more than enough to raise our spirits." Midoriya and Asui said that he didn't have to do that, but he implored them that he had to do something to cheer his fellow students up. Midoriya eventually accepted the invitation, with Tsuyu declining. The other students begged her to reconsider, but she insisted that all she wanted was to be home with her parents. She tucked her backpack straps and walked home alone, with Midoriya and his friends watching her with worry on their minds. "Man, getting touched by that villain's quirk really must have gotten to her," Kyoka said, who was also with the group. "It's alright, Jiro. After what happened to her, I can understand if she just wants a little alone time." Midoriya thought that he should keep a close eye on her and ask her how she's holding up the next time he runs into her. After Midoriya and roughly half of 1A spent the night singing their blues away, they got a notification from the school that due to the attack, all classes were cancelled tomorrow. This way here, the school could reevaluate their security and make sure an incident like this doesn't happen again. The next day, at a run-down building in one of the roughest parts of the city, the blue-haired Shigaraki and his accomplice Kurogiri were watching the news from the television of their hideout. Up next, we have an update on the incident at the UA Rescue Center where Hero Course students were attacked by a group of villains during what was supposed to be a hero training session. According to police officials, the group who called themselves the League of Villains infiltrated school grounds, planning to kill UA teacher and popular hero All Might. Despite being attacked by the group, investigators have confirmed that All Might is currently safe and uninjured. However, at least 3 students and 2 pro-heroes were injured from the attack, with 2 of the injuries at the time reportedly being critical. The doctors looking over these patients have assured that all those injured from the attack are expected to recover. Police have arrested at least 71 villains from the incident, with the leader of the group and 2 unknown assailants escaping the scene before police could apprehend him. Their whereabouts are currently unknown. Tomura was visibly upset at the news as he gripped his glass of sake. So, that boy survived All Might's punch after all, Shigaraki growled in discontent. All the resources and back doors we passed through, all the chips we bet on, and in the end, we have nothing to show for it. Shigaraki broke his glass in a fit of rage, accidentally cutting his fingers. Shigaraki, please control yourself, Kurogiri said as he reached for a first aid kit. I understand you're agitated, but I'm afraid our plans were all for naught. Even the doctor said that he made some miscalculations with Nomu's capabilities. I fear that even if All Might was in the building when we first arrived, the results of our efforts would not have been different. No, it was that kid, the one with the green hair. He cheated and ruined everything, Shigaraki accused as Kurogiri wrapped his cut hand with first aid bandages. If that kid didn't somehow tamper with my Nomu, I'm certain we would have killed All Might. When I run into him again, I'll disintegrate every atom in that brat's body. And Shigaraki was interrupted by a loud knock from the front door. Kurogiri prepared his quirk in case it was a straggler. However, on the other side of the opening door, they were greeted by a familiar face that they didn't expect to see for some time. The well-known broker in the criminal underworld himself, Giran. Hey, Shigaraki, Kuro, how are my two favorite work partners getting along? The man asked as he pulled out a cigarette and lit it with his signature gun lighter. Giran, we did not expect you to arrive for at least a few hours, Kurogiri said as he finished bandaging up Shigaraki's hand. Really? Well, ain't that a coincidence? I was not expecting something myself. All Might still being alive. Guess I don't gotta tell you that the media has been talking about your botched USJ operation non-stop since yesterday. I got you guys a lot of criminals for that gig. So what happened? I'm afraid we underestimated them. Seriously? Even the Nobu didn't help you none? No. One of the UA students we crossed paths with messed with my Nomu. He did something to it that caused it to somehow lose control of itself. Giran took a seat as he was intrigued by this student he was talking about. You're serious? One UA kid messed up that big Nomu you got? I mean, I was able to get a backstage pass sneak peek at that thing about a week back, and you need at least a battalion of tanks to put a scratch on that thing. So how did he do it? We're not sure, Kurogiri chimed in. Could have been a mind-altering quirk. However, Shigaraki was attacked by the boy's power. He said it was as if the child ordered some kind of invisible being to attack him. He must have done something to the Nomu we could not perceive. Even the doctor who engineered the Nomu analyzed the brain after the attack. Even he couldn't figure out how it was tampered with. That's when Giran looked at the glass villain, and in a rare sight, Giran's smug grin changed to a look of light nervousness. Wait. Hold on. Some invisible creature thing punched you? And you're saying that some kid ordered it to attack? Did he say anything to you at all before the punches started flying? Personal Jesus, Act 2. That's exactly what he said. Act 2? Hold that thought. Giran pulled out his phone and did some quick research. Within 8 seconds, he reacted as if he couldn't believe what he heard. Holy shit. No, there's no way. It can't be. There's no way. He muttered to himself. What are you muttering about now? Shigaraki asked. Tomura, you know you're one of my favorite customers to do business with, so I'm just gonna let you know right now. What I'm thinking is true, that you were in way more danger at that moment than you think. What? What are you talking about? You know something, don't you? I only know what you're telling me, and if what you're telling me is true, then I think you got attacked by a stand user. The man's words caused Tomura to turn his body towards the man. A what? A stand user? What's that? Some new kind of quirk I'm not familiar with? No, this isn't some type of quirk. Stands and quirks are two very different ball games, amigo. It's like comparing football to that fake football crap they play in the United States with the pads and shit. You know what quirks are. They're just superhuman abilities people can develop. Telepathy, air manipulation, you get it. A stand is basically a ghost-like entity that possesses quirk-like abilities and can do any number of crazy shit. But that doesn't make any sense. I haven't heard anything about stand users in nearly a decade. I always assumed that they all died, went quiet, or went soft and left the criminal world. How's it possible that some UA kid could have a stand? And if he has a stand, are there others at UA that have one too? Wait, hold on. How do you know about these stands? Shigaraki asked. Are you one of those stand users you're telling me about? No, not me. Someone I crossed paths with years ago. He was a stand user and told me everything about them. I'll never forget meeting the guy. If you want, I could tell you everything I know. Fine. Anything's better than listening to the news any further. Shigaraki asked Kurogiri to turn off the television before Giran told his story on how he came to know of stands. He told his company to get comfortable, as this was going to take a while. Alright, listen well, cause this story's a weird one. I'm sure you two are somewhat familiar with how I became the criminal broker you know me as, but you probably don't know how it all began. I started the same way most criminals do. I shoplifted. A lot. At first I started with snacks with a local convenience store, then it progressed to pricier things like clothes and video games. Eventually I started stealing vases and other stuff I could sell for a high price. There'd be days where I could make 7,000 yen on the goods that I stole. Other times it was—
We know about your thief phase. Just get to the part about the stand user.
Eventually I developed a plan for how I did my thieving sprees. I started this town, steal some stuff, find a buyer, sell my loot, head to another town, rinse and repeat. Eventually, my pattern of town hopping landed me in this place called Borio. When I first arrived, I was feeling pretty good, had decent cash, and I was in a good mood. So, before I thought about what was worth taking in this town, I decided to spoil myself on some drinks at this live music club in the town. Minutes before I arrived, the place was getting ready for a live performance for some up-and-comer rock star type. That up-and-comer was the stand user. I'll never forget his name. Akira Otoishi. The guy was a natural. I mean, this guy could be up there with Jeff Beck or Eddie Van Halen, he was that good. After his performance, he came to the bar and sat next to me. That's when we started to hit it off. The two of us chatted for a few minutes about music, life here in Morio, what the towns were like, and a couple of other things. But minutes into our talk, he looked at me like he could see through my ruse. Like, he knew why I was really in town. That's when he leaned in and quietly said to me,
I can tell why you're really here, man. You're looking to do some thieving, aren't you?
As soon as he said that, I went pale and I felt something in my body drop, thinking he was gonna call the cops on me. But no, it wasn't like that at all. In fact, he asked me if I wanted to go to a quieter place to talk, as he had a proposition for me. Now, yeah, I know you should never go to a quieter place with a stranger you just met, but I was so intrigued by this guy and how he figured me out so easily that I decided to go along with it. He took me to this small, quiet soba-e restaurant not far from the bar. I had no idea what he wanted with me, until he told me he actually wanted to talk about business. Alright, I'm gonna cut to the chase, man. I like your style. I can easily tell that you and I have a lot in common. We both got killer dreams to be big shots in this world, and have a bit of a case of sticky fingers to go with it. So how's about I make you the proposal of a lifetime, one that'll be worth both our whiles. Now, like I said, this all happened around 9 years ago, so my memory of what he tells me next is a bit foggy, but he told me this story about how he was shot with a bow and arrow about a week and a half ago. Now, according to him, it didn't seriously hurt or even kill him. He said he was unconscious for several minutes and somehow had no wound on his body to speak of. When he woke up, he found this guy standing over him holding the bow he was shot with. The guy apologized for shooting him with it and said he did it because he needed his help. He said that his father developed some kind of a curse that made him a hideous, disgusting monster that couldn't be killed by natural means. I thought it was just some god-awful quirk the guy developed that made him a freak, but he didn't tell me the details. Anyway, he said how he was shooting random people with this supernatural bow that gives people stand abilities, hoping someone would have the power to either help his father or put him out of his misery. So Akira was asked for his assistance in helping the father, to which he told him to piss off. In response, the guy attacked Akira with his own stand, which, according to him, was a stand that summons an army battalion of action figure-sized army soldiers, tanks, and helicopters to shoot shit. Yeah, these stands are pretty bizarre. Anyway, he was able to get away from this guy before he was killed, and obviously had some ticked-off energy and wanted to get revenge on the guy. So, he told me he was planning on taking the bow and arrow from the man, and then possibly kill him. His offer was that if he was successful in doing this, he wants to use the arrow on me, so I could get my own stand and become an unstoppable crime duo with Mr. Otoishi. That's when I pieced together what he wanted. He was looking for a partner in crime to help him out with his deeds. He was offering me a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, this guy wanted to shoot me with a freaking bow, for God's sakes. I didn't even know if all that stand talk was legit or not. Well, not at the time. Minutes after his proposal, I definitely found out that Akira and his red hot chili pepper were the real deal. Turns out that my stealing spree over the last several towns caught the attention of several police agencies. The cops found me and Akira at that restaurant after countless hours of tracking me down. 5 police officers came in and told us to put our hands up. I thought the jig was up and that I was going to jail for a while, but Akira had other plans. Hey Giran, in case you thought all that stand user stuff I said to you was a load of bull, check this out. The officers yelled for us to get on the ground and blah. But then one of the officers behind him got spontaneously fried, like he was thrown into a high-powered electric fence or something. Then the officer who told me to get down had his arm sliced off. Just sliced from out of nowhere. Then another cop got zapped, then another, until all 5 cops looked like flies that went into a bug zapper. It was the craziest shit I ever saw in the early years of my life. He then just calmly looked my way and said he killed them with his stand. He says I couldn't see it in action due to stands being invisible and untouchable to other people unless you have one yourself. Which could explain why this UA kid was able to attack you in your Nomu without you noticing what was happening. Anyway, Akira drew a phone number on one of the napkins he had and gave it to me. He told me to give him a call in a few days, to tell him if I was in on his proposal or not. Otherwise, he was riding solo. He then got up and just casually walked out of the place as I sat there in shock from what he did. But I couldn't stay there. 5 officers were dead in front of me and backup was guaranteed to be on the way. Add the fact that the restaurant staff got a good look at my face, and that's all the reason I had to leave town as fast as I could. Giran's flashback ended as he focused back on the bar.
So what? You just left town? Shigaraki asked. You had a chance to work with this guy and you never followed through with it? What a waste.
He killed 5 people. Do I really gotta tell you why a crime like that in a small town like Morio is going to get a lot of unwanted attention? To this day, there's still an arrest warrant on me for what happened back there. A few seconds of silence filled the room before Shigaraki questioned Giran about Akira's offer to make him a stand user. I didn't do it. I gave the guy a call, but told him that I had to keep my head down because of what he did. Good thing too. About a month and a half after the incident, he was somehow arrested and sent to prison. I heard at the time since, he's turned a new leaf. Giran then got up as he finished smoking his cigarette. Look, I don't know if this kid really has a stand or not, but I have an idea on how we can find out. The UA Sports Festival's coming up soon, right? Biggest yearly event in all of Japan. I'll try using every resource I can to find Akira and convince him to join the league. And since the festival will be televised, I can easily get him to verify for us whether or not this kid's a stand user, since, according to him, only another stand user can see a stand. Till then, I suggest you stay away from UA for a while. You could be dealing with a major threat here, and Akira's the only guy I know that can help us with this problem. Heck, if there are other stand users at UA that we don't know about, then it's all the more reason we need to fight fire with fire. The purple-suited broker left the bar, leaving Shigaraki and Kurogiri to themselves as they thought about Giran's story. How do you feel about this Akira character he described? Kurogiri asked Tomura.
Honestly, I didn't believe half of what he said,
Shigaraki shared.
But if this guy can kill multiple people without a challenge, I'll give him a chance and see how he plays our game. For now, let's leave Giran to work his magic and see if these stand users are the real deal or not.
A day later, school was back in session at UA High as Izuku arrived to class to greet the other students and ask how everyone was doing. Everyone seemed to be in a happier state of mind than they were 2 days ago. Even Tsuyu Asui.
I told you to call me Sue.
Oh, sorry, Sue. Who appeared to have recovered from Shigaraki's decay, aside from the notable discoloring on the left part of her face. Oh, hey there, Sue. How are you feeling?
Oh, hey, Midoriya. I'm doing okay. I feel better now thanks to recovery, girl. Ribbit. I met up with her earlier today before class and she gave me one last touch-up on my injuries. Aside from the fact that I'm pretty tired, I barely have any more pain from the attack.
Tsuyu thanked Midoriya for his concern, as Tenya ran into the room and told everyone to take their seats, with his attention being focused on Midoriya, who was the only one aside from Ida who hasn't sat down. So, Midoriya, who do you think is going to be teaching class today? Mineta asked as Izuku sat in his chair. He responded that he had no idea, as he thought he was still in the hospital. He hoped that whoever would be teaching class today would have good news to share on All Might and Bakugo's conditions. The class door eventually slid open as everyone looked at who was coming in. Mineta and a couple of the other boys blushed with excitement as the person who walked through the door was none other than the R18 hero herself, Midnight. Oh wow! It's the pro hero Midnight! I didn't know she was a teacher at this school! Midoriya said with a light hint of awestruck in his voice. Behind his desk, Mineta could barely contain his excitement as the sight of one of his top favorite heroes made him more ready to learn than any other school day before it. Good morning, class, the woman said as she stood behind the podium. I'm Nemuri Kayama, but I'm sure most of you know me as the R-rated hero Midnight. Before we start, I want to give you all an update on Bakugo and Aizawa's status. Everyone's ears and eyes were glued on the pro hero as they were eager to know how the injured were holding up. Bakugo's still at the hospital being treated for his wounds, but he's doing much better than when he was first admitted. The doctor said that he should be released no later than a week's time. As for Aizawa, he was actually released from the hospital earlier this morning, and even tried to come back to the school and... well... Hound Dog, I told you I'm fine. You're not fine, Aizawa. The doctors told you to stay home for a few days and rest. Midnight said she'll look after your students while you're away. Now go home! The UA Sports Festival is coming up. She isn't going to get my class properly ready for it. I told you I'm okay. Look, just let me talk to Principal Nezu. He'll understand.
I believe this guy's the student council.
Let's just say Principal Nezu insisted he take a couple weeks off to recuperate. Don't worry, I know Aizawa well. Even though there are days I wish he'd take his personal health more seriously, he'll be back before you know it. Until then, I'll be your substitute teacher. Now then, as much as I would like for you students to take it easy due to recent events, I'm afraid your fight's not over yet. The R18 hero clarified to the class that the students had to ready themselves for the upcoming UA Sports Festival. Several students questioned if it was a good idea to hold the sports festival so early after the attack from a few days ago. Midnight responded that the school administration believes this is the best way to show the world that the villain threat has been handled and that we're safer than ever. Aside from that, the UA Sports Festival is the biggest school event of the year. Every pro hero agency across the country will have their eyes on the event to scout out future sidekicks and other future pros. The importance of the event was too big to let a single villain attack stop it. Now, I may not be as strict as Aizawa when it comes to teaching, but I expect each of you to take your hero training for the next 2 weeks extra seriously. Each of you will only get 3 chances during your time here at UA to show everyone watching at home what you can do. And as your substitute, it's my job to make sure you all go plus ultra with your training and show the pro heroes at home what you can do. Make me proud, UA! Thank you all for sticking around and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.
Justice will break